Hey Rum fam, another week, another British scratch rum review, except this is the follow-up to last week's video. This is not a British scratch rum, but it is a British brand. Last week I did the Lost Years for Ireland. This week I'm doing the Lost Years, I call it Yabba Dabba Doo. And I think Yabba Dabba Doo is such a bad name. Don't get me wrong, I love the name. Let's give you kind of a close-up on that if you can kind of see it. The Arribada. The Arribada is a cool name for it, but I like Yabba Dabba Doo. I don't know why. I don't know why I called it that. I just did straight off the gate. So just a quick recap from last week. Yes, this is not a British scratch rum, but it is a British rum brand that are very much part of the British UK scene, if you like. And the whole business is sort of set up to help save baby sea turtles. I kind of loosely touched on that story last week, so go and watch last week's video. As I said, last week was the Four Islands. This week is the Yabba Dabba Doo, the Arribada. Now, for some reason, this is interesting revisiting this. I've probably not touched this now for a few months, and I don't actually know why, because as I said last week, my palate is very much in those multi-country, multi-island blends, like a la black top, that sort of stuff. But this is very different. However, this is all column still, which should be right up my street. I haven't sipped or tasted this. I've just poured this. So this is going to be interesting for me to kind of, you know, revisit this after a good few months. So before I dive in, let me just tell you a little bit about the rum. I've got the web page up here. 42%, so we're 2% ABV higher than last week. Obviously, as I say, is a blend from E&A Sheer kind of do this. So with these rums as well, there's some of these rums in here, or the majority of these rums, we can't actually disclose what the distillery are. As I say, I did touch on that last week. Yes, we can normally disclose Foursquare as part of a Barbados things, but when it comes to Jamaica, not so much. The same is kind of true for some of these rums in here. So what we've got Panama, El Salvador, Venezuela, Nicaragua, and the Dominican Republic. Now, as I said, all 5 of these rums are column still rums. They are aged up to 8 years old in American white oak. So virgin oak, essentially. So, you know, this rum should be right up my street. And I don't know why I've not revisited it. I don't know. As I say, I've probably not touched this. Actually, it's probably a lot longer. I've probably actually not touched this since I did the live stream, which might have been 8, 9, 10 months ago. I generally don't know, and I generally don't know why. So the only thing to tell you, I think it's slightly more expensive. It's nearly £45, so £5 more expensive than the Four Islands here. But let's have a little dive in. Now this is fascinating straight away because I don't really get any fruit off that at all. Maybe kind of like dried sort of sultanas, that sort of stuff, but nothing, no tropical fruit at all in this. The big sort of nose is barrel aged oak. That's kind of what I don't think from memory this is a really punchy oaky rum, but that's the kind of nose I get. It's a sort of subtle hint of caramel, but again, not over in your face. There's a subtle hint of vanilla, but you know, I'm talking really, really subtle. There's no sort of, you know, I'm putting this against. So the vanilla that really does stick in my head is the Portsmouth 1812, because that was aged in Jim Beam barrels. And that was just like a vanilla pod just smacking you around the face. You know, this, and that's the difference, because this is white oak and kind of the Portsmouth 1812 was ex Jim Beam. You've got that variance, but you know, there's a subtle bit of vanilla on here, but not much. It is oak. That is the aroma that I kind of get off this. And I'm really struggling to pick anything else up off the aroma. I don't think there is anything there, but it's caramel, it's oak. Maybe in the loosest sense of the word, like dried fruit, but definitely not anything what I would naturally put down with these country, like stone fruit or anything like that. I don't get anything like that at all. Now on tasting, I kind of remember now why the Four Island is more up my street. This is actually really delicious. I could quite happily grow into that. I could. I get actually honey vibes. Honey, it's a kind of trait off that as well, but this is definitely more honey, more salted caramel. That's turning into now as the finish. Oh, that's huge salted caramel notes going down like the side of my throat. Absolutely huge as that finishes there. The oak is there, but it's not sort of spicy oak or anything like that. It's actually quite sort of dull in the background compared to that kind of salted caramel. I'm kind of trying to swirl this around in my mouth to pick up a little hint of fruit, but I really don't. There must be something there. Perhaps I'm just having an off day. Perhaps that's all it is. There must be something there. But the Fort Island for me is, even though I am more column still, I'm more aligned to these countries than what I am what's in there. There is something about a multi-country blend like Black Tot, like the Fort Island, that does have the kind of Jamaica, that does have the Barbados in there, that brings those kind of fruity, tropical notes out in the rum that I really do love. More so than I do when they're just each in their own. Like I would rather drink that Fort Island, I would rather drink the Black Tot than I would do a straight out Barbados rum or a straight out Guyana rum. Bear in mind, there's no Guyana in the Fort Islands, but there is Guyana in the Black Tot. This is really intriguing me now. Do you know what? I would quite happily give this, I'd be so confident in giving this to a whiskey drinker. Really, really confident. Purely probably because of the lack of fruit on this. This is a very different palate to what I am used to. It's fascinating because I really, with the column still rums, I really do generally get sort of stone fruit, like peaches, like apricot, maybe a bit of plum, sometimes even a little hint of cherry. Normally a little bit of just subtle sort of pineapple or mango or something like that. I'm really struggling to pick any of that out. Let's go back through the countries again. Got Panama, El Salvador, Venezuela, Nicaragua, and Dominican Republic. Now, Nicaragua, I think Flor de Caña. Actually, to be fair, right, Flor de Caña 12 does have a lot of fruit punching out. A lot of fruit punching out. The Flor de Caña 7 and the Flor de Caña 18, not so much. So then to break this down even more, Panama, I'm not got a huge experience with Panamanian rums. A couple of Abuelos, but then they are a little bit sweeter. And remember, there's no added, like Lost Years, they're all about the no added colour, no added sugar, additives, anything like that. So Panama, I wouldn't say I would be overly confident in picking anything Panamanian out in that rum. El Salvador, again, it's a country that I've got little to no experience with. Venezuela, obviously, you're thinking Diplo. I was going to say Don Rep then, but Diplo. Actually, when I think about this, actually, it seems reminiscent of an unsweetened. Actually, that one, the Familia. I'm not even sure that's not even on camera. I don't know why I'm pointing there. But it's kind of got that sort of trait to it. Not the Reserva, but that sort of trait to the rum. So, and that is, even though I'm led to believe it is slightly dosed, it's nowhere near as dosed as the green bottle, the Reserva. So yeah, I'd be really interested to give this to a whiskey drinker. I'd be really interested to give this to another column still fan, because I am. It's just not what I'm kind of used to with column still. I think if I'm being honest, there's a rum and there's a palate for everyone. As I always say, you do you. Out of the two, I would have absolutely zero hesitations in restocking the Fort Island. That's right up my street. This, I reckon another sort of 2 to 3 years, I think this would probably be right on my street, and that'll be like an automatic kind of grab for a sip, whereas up until now, especially in the last sort of few months, this has been my sort of grab and go, if you like, because it's so flipping delicious. So yeah, 45 quid. If any of you have had this, I'd be really interested to hear what you think. Not a bad, this is very much not a bad rum at all. This is very much, you can taste the quality in there. You really can taste the quality. But for me, my heart does lie with the Fort Island.